Hello everybody, I'm Ian Abernethy, and in this video I want to talk to you about the training matrix again. Keeps coming up a lot. For those who haven't seen the previous video on the training matrix, you probably want to watch that. For those who haven't got the time, let me give you a very brief summation, right? So the training matrix concept is based on three key premises. The first premise is only real is real. Okay, all forms of training are not real. All forms of training have faults. Every single one of them does. These are necessary faults. We introduce the faults in order for safety or to isolate a given skill. So we put faults into the drill on purpose. And the key bit, which is where the idea of the matrix comes in, is the weak points of one drill are corrected by the strong points in another drill. So where a drill may be flawed in one way, it might not be flawed in another way, and hence the things fit together, and there's a matrix, it works. But obviously, if you look at any one drill in isolation, you can find faults with it, because that's the way it is. So for example, if I'm hitting pads, I can hit them with full force, but pads don't fight back, right? It's not live. And also the distancing's a little bit messed up because I'm hitting a target on someone's hand. I'm not actually hitting the human anatomy. And hitting a pad doesn't feel the same as hitting a body anyway, right? It's not the same. So you could say, well, don't do pads. But we understand that, well, pad works are there to generate power. That's what we're to help us generate power and movement skills and transition skills. But it's not a substitute for working with a partner. Of course, when we come to work with a partner, if you've got a decent punch on you, you can't hit the guy full force because people would die, right? So you go, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to control my blow. Well, that's got a problem because you don't want to control blows in a real fight. Or you could slowly push it through the target. Well, that's a problem because you're not working on the correct dynamic and you haven't got speed, and your partner, if it's slow, your partner's got way too much time to react. There's a problem there. If you put gloves on, there's still a problem because now your fist is twice as big, so it's easy to be to land shots than it was. You can use the gloves to cover. You can put armor on, and therefore that's unrealistic because the effect of strikes is reduced. So what could have been a stopping blow just becomes a stunning blow. Every form of training has faults, and the trick is you say, well, what I'll do is I'll do my live drills with my partner, so I get the resistance and the movement and the placement, and I'll do the pad drills so I know I can hit with impact. So together they work as a set. Now, to me this seems obvious, but it would seem to a large number of people on the internet it's not, right? So I'm going to go basic. For those who can't grasp this concept, I'm going to use props. This is what you've done, internet. You've reduced me to props, right? So if I have these, and you may recognize these, right? These are the things I used to eat with on a day-to-day basis. You've probably got a set of your own, right? And they're supposed to be used as a set. Like training methods, they're supposed to be used as a set. If I take one away from it and ignore all the others, I can criticize this one very easily. So for example, I could go, I've tried to cut a steak with this, it doesn't work. I push and push and push, it just bends it, it won't cut through the meat. I could also go, I've tried to eat soup with this. I've spooned and spooned away, but look, there's a fault with this. Look at the little slots in the thing, right? The soup just dribbles through. It took me forever. It doesn't work for eating soup. Now, that's not a meaningful debate. It's not a meaningful criticism. It's ridiculous, and yet we see it a lot because we all know it's supposed to be part of a set, right? This thing is fantastic for skewering, right? That's what it does. Stab it into the food. You can get the food to your mouth. It works brilliantly for that. And we use that for cutting, and we use that for scooping. And when we put all three of them together, we have a working set of cutlery that allow us to eat all our food, right? If you isolate one away, any criticisms you give that one thing on its own, isolated for everything else, is meaningless because it's supposed to be part of a set, right? So for those, I couldn't think of a better example than this. I've had to go this low to the point where I'm explaining martial drills with props. So this is what you've driven me to, right? So there's two reasons why people will go, oh, look at that, you can't eat soup with it, right? Or they'll go, pick any other form of training you want, because they all have the faults, every single one of them. You cannot name a form of training except to the death combat, right? And even then you can argue there's a fault because it's not escape skills, right? But you can't name a form of training that doesn't have faults. So you can criticize any form of training you want with this, any. But in doing so, it's meaningless. So if I isolate one given training method from all its others and start to criticize it, there's only two reasons why I'm going to be doing that, right? The first one is I don't know it's supposed to be part of a wider set, and that's legitimate, and it can happen. So, for example, people would go, well, wouldn't you be better sparring than doing kata? That's a common one. What's the point of doing kata? Surely you should do it with a partner. Well, the bit that they're missing is that the kata informs us what to do when we've got a training partner. Kata is not an alternative to sparring. It's a thing that tells us what we do in our sparring. right? In the same way, hitting a punch bag is not an alternative to sparring. You've got different forms of training, each with its own objective. So if people don't get it's part of a wider matrix, the criticism of the thing on its own can be valid. And what we need to do as responsible martial artists who care about our art is just go, you know what? Yeah, you're right about that on its own, but it's part of a wider matrix. It's supposed to be used with all these, right? So that's legit, and that happens a lot. The other reason that people do this, and this is what kind of prompted this video really, is they're just doing it to have an argument, and we need to be better than this. They're just doing it to troll, to start a debate, to bull up their own self-importance, to show the world how clever they are, to try and have a go at someone else's position. And they're not, of course, because it's not a valid argument to say you can't eat soup with a fork, right? It's not supposed to be used for eating soup. So in that case, such discussions are pointless. If you're, thinking martial artist and you come across someone who's going, you can't eat, soup with a fork or whatever the martial equivalent is, there's little point in engaging in that discussion other than if it's in a public place, like Facebook, YouTube, something like that. What you may find is you can say to people, yeah, but there's these. So the guy himself may stick to his, illogical position, but I can't eat soup with it. He might stick to that position. But so others reading it and go, oh, right, okay, I get that now. I didn't understand the wider training matrix, and now that I do. So yeah, training matrix. Every single drill has a flaw. Only real is real. Any drill at all, any form of training you want, you can criticize if you look for the faults. The fact is, you're supposed to use it as a set. Right? You can't say with this one, I can't eat soup with this, and I can't skewer me food with this. What you do is you go, right, I understand they're supposed to be used as a set. So, and the training matrix that we've got all comes together in a way that allows us to practice it. That's safe, enjoyable, and productive. And that's the key point, is make sure that every single drill is productive, and where it's lacking, because they all are, where it's lacking, then we correct that with another form of training. So hopefully you get this. If you're having discussions with people who don't, then maybe try and educate them to, the wider idea. There's not just this, there's these two. And if they're just kind of, zooming in on the deficiencies of a fork and ignoring the wider skill set, that person's not a person you want to have a discussion with, unless it can publicly help educate others. Otherwise, it's just very little point. They need to be better than that. We need to be better than this. Worthwhile debate is so important in martial arts. So these straw man, weak, poor arguments, these, you can't eat soup with a fork arguments, you shouldn't hit pads because they don't hit back, you shouldn't spar because you need to use control, and on and on and on. They are very poor arguments, they're not good arguments, and they shouldn't really be engaged with.